being a history lesson. So, I'm very, very honoured that so many people have come and to celebrate EPER. At one conference I discovered that EPER meant strawberry in Hungarian. And so I felt that that was encouraging. It could have meant something awful. So it was the foundation of EPER, Edinburgh Project on Extensive Reading. Well, I've put Malaysia on the handout, but actually, as I said yesterday, it was in Uganda. That is where I learnt the terms extensive reading, and where I was taught about class libraries, reading notebooks, book reports, class readers, teaching guides for class readers, and it was standard practice. I arrived in Malaysia, and of course there was no sign of it at all, absolutely none. I went to the headmistress of the school I taught in and said, "Where are the graded readers?" And she said, "What are they?" So there were no graded readers when I arrived. I'm proud to say, though I can't claim to compete with some of the huge libraries that there are now here, that we had 5,000 graded readers in the school by the time I left. Wow. So at least I did a good job for the publishers. And in Malaysia, we were a team of about 30 expatriates working under the leadership of a lecturer at Edinburgh University who was seconded to lead this, this invasion. And we formed a sort of a team working on various aspects of the English curriculum. And we found a situation which is not, which is sadly found still in many places, where the standard actually did not improve as years went on. The children tended to arrive in lower secondary 1 at point A, and there they remained until they left. So I started off teaching at the top class, and the level was exactly the same as the youngest children at the bottom of the school. And this was what we found, so we reckoned we had to do something about it. And the setting, establishing setting for within the school for English was the first step. And I remember going to the headmistress and saying, "We must set the children for English." And she said, "Oh, but if the best ones will become proud." And I had to say, "Headmistress, they are proud already. At every lesson, their pride is expanded." But what about the weakest? If they are all on their own, they will become despondent. Headmistress, they are despondent already. And every lesson, their despondence, if such a word, gets deeper. So she was very brave, and she bucked the official policy and allowed us to do this. I went back to the school 15 years after I left, and nobody really knew me, and I said, "And how's the English department doing now?" And they said, "We have a very good system here. We allow setting. And we are able to make the sets smaller than the classes. And we have a very small class for the weakest students." So that is why I am absolutely passionate about the folly and misery that is imposed on teachers and students by mixed ability for language teaching. Mustn't spend too long because I've got other things to say. I remember the coordinator coming to the school and seeing what I was doing, observing what I was doing with the reading, trying to collect readers and so on, and he said, "We must do this in all the schools." So I formed a team of 3, and we began to develop the materials, the lists, choose the books for distribution over the 30 schools in this scheme. And we wrote questions and answers and produced answer cards for all the books that we used, and we had teachers producing teaching guides for to help teachers teach class readers, usually on a program of 4 weeks, 1 lesson per week for the class reader. Never more. You must not use a class reader for too long. It kills its stone dead. 3 to 4 weeks maximum, even if you have no more. Just because you only have 1 class reader does not mean that you have to use it throughout the year. Have it as a change. Anyway, this program and all together of it, the EPER tests derived from this period. There were other work done in grammar and composition and listening, and the whole program had a profound effect on the standard of English in those 30 schools. The ministry were extremely pleased and asked what was the best part of this for expansion countrywide. And it was decided that the key elements were the reading program and the setting. And in my last year in Malaysia, I was working in the ministry, preparing for the expansion of these 2 ideas across the country. It was a tremendous job to have, and I was sorry I couldn't continue to stay there. But there was one mistake which the ministry made, and that was they said, yes, we don't like this reading program very much, but it's very expensive. Couldn't we just have either the library readers or the class readers? And we said, no. Well, it's too expensive. Which one? And so we said, well, library readers, because that's the only way in which the students can read a lot. So that's what they did. And frankly, it didn't work, because it lacked the support, what we've learnt, or I've learnt, the scaffolding which the teacher, that methodology, which gives support to the reading. You need that as well, and the great watchword was, the class reader is for quality of reading, quality of understanding, and the library readers are for the quantity and quality. Later, they decided, well, perhaps they made a mistake, so they wouldn't have library readers, they would have class readers. But of course, that was equally hopeless. And then, anyway, that is going ahead of the time. That was the Malaysian scheme in a nutshell. And I had the great satisfaction 2 or 3 months ago of being sent an email out of the blue by a woman who had been one of my students 30 years ago. She had looked me up to see if she could find me on the internet, and worryingly, she found me. She asked, are you the teacher who used to come on a motorbike? And said, yes, I was. When I say motorbike, it was a 49cc motor McCain putt-putt. The great thing about it was that you could go on the pavements. So I overtook all the traffic jams. But she wrote and said, we love the program, the English program, particularly the class readers, and she listed 5 of them. Now that's from 30 years ago. The impression that those had made on her, which I think was very significant and warmed my heart no end. So, I chose to go to do my MSc in Applied Linguistics in Edinburgh, because that's where the lecturer who had coordinated us had returned to. And he set up the Institute for Applied Language Studies which was a sort of demonstration school for the Department of Applied Linguistics. And I, fortunately, was able to join, you know, getting in on the ground floor. And he knew me, and I became the Director of Studies, which I did at the same time as trying to set up EPER. And the ideas of EPER really are all his. His name was Clive Kruiper, and he should be remembered, because it was his foresight and imagination that really set EPER up. Then we'd got it set up, and two things happened at the same time. My wife produced a baby. Now, in advance of this, we had decided that I would be the one who would look after her, as it turned to be a her. Because my wife earned 4 times my salary, so it was quite obvious that half of my salary would not be missed. And at the same time, chiefly because of the entrepreneurial skill and flair of Clive Kruiper, we won a contract to prepare and produce and give a scheme for Hong Kong. And this was the ERS in Hong Kong. And my work over the next 5 years was really preparing a complete package for Hong Kong schools. We prepared it in the UK and sent it all in a freighter, what do you call these things? Container. In a container. 2 containers loaded with books, all boxed carefully, all covered in plastic jackets, all numbered, lists in each box, questions and answers. 5 minutes? Oh gosh. Well, this is important. You must know about this. What was I going to say?
Container. Questions?
Yes. The questions were all pasted in the books, in the front of the books. Oh no, there was an introduction. In those days, there were no blurbs. So we put an introduction into the graded readers. And we put the questions at the back, stuck in. And we had the answers on answer cards pasted onto cardboard. And the cardboard was laminated so that they would last. And this is what we did for 7 years, and it spread out into, Aileen, is Aileen here? I can't remember how many schools we had finally. But anyway, not all of them by any means. And that was the scheme. And that kept EPER afloat. Though I should have said that we had an experimental program in Tanzania and Zanzibar. And this is a very good object